After part 1 went up, thousands of you asked me the same exact question in the comments. Who sent you that video? Honestly, I didn't know either. For 2 months, that unknown number just sat in my phone. I'd stare at it some nights, wondering if it was a stranger, an employee at that hotel, someone who just wanted to watch my life fall apart for entertainment. I finally found out. And I need to tell you, the answer didn't just satisfy my curiosity. It cracked this entire story open in a way I never saw coming. This is part 2. And I promise you, it gets worse before it gets better. Quick recap if this is your first time here. I'm Marcus. 4 days before my wedding, an anonymous number sent me a video of my fiancée, Sarah, and my best man of 15 years, Derek, together at a hotel. I cancelled the wedding. I cut them both out of my life completely. That's where part 1 ended. But here's what I didn't know yet. Back when I posted that video, for 2 months after my wedding was supposed to happen, I never touched that number again. Jason, my friend who'd helped me through everything, asked me once if I even wanted to know who'd sent it. I told him I wasn't sure it mattered. I already knew the truth. Did the messenger really change anything? But it kept nagging at me. Late at night, replaying everything, I kept coming back to the same detail. Whoever sent that video knew things a random stranger couldn't know. They knew Sarah and Derek would be at that hotel. They had the actual footage, not just a rumor. That meant it was someone close. Someone who had access to Derek's life in a way I hadn't considered. By August, almost 2 months after the wedding date had come and gone, the question had turned into something I couldn't ignore anymore. I needed to know why a stranger had cared enough about my life to blow it up before. I said I do. So I did something I probably should have thought through more carefully. I opened my messages, scrolled back to that 47-second video and the number attached to it, and I typed something out. I sat there for a full 10 minutes before I hit send. I don't know who you are, but you changed my life completely. I just want to know why you sent this to me. Then I put my phone face down on the counter and didn't look at it for the rest of the night. 3 days passed. No response. I figured the number was probably already dead. Some burner phone tossed in a drawer somewhere. Part of me was almost relieved. Maybe I didn't actually need to know. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, sitting at my desk at work, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. The same one. My hands went cold before I even opened it. Some part of my body remembered exactly what happened the last time this number lit up my screen. The message said, "My name is Emily. I think we should talk. In person, if you're okay with that." Emily. I sat with that name for a long moment. In 3 years with Sarah, in 15 years knowing Derek, I had never once heard that name. Not at a party, not at a dinner, not in a passing story. She was a complete stranger to me. I typed back, "How do you know Derek and Sarah?" The reply took almost 20 minutes to come through. When it did, it was a single line. And I've thought about that line more times than I can count since. I was seeing Derek for 8 months. I found out about Sarah 3 weeks before your wedding. I read it maybe 20 times in a row, like the words might rearrange themselves into something less devastating if I just looked hard enough. Derek wasn't just cheating with Sarah. Derek had been in an entire separate relationship with another woman for 8 months, the exact same 8 months. He'd spent helping me plan a wedding, standing next to me at cake tastings, writing a best man speech about how he'd known the moment he met Sarah that she was the one for me. I actually laughed out loud at my desk, not because anything was funny. I think it was just the only reaction my body had left. My coworker 2 desks over asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. I was not fine. I stared at my phone for a long time before responding. Everything I thought I understood about this story, a moment of weakness, a mistake made 3 weeks before a wedding, suddenly felt incomplete. Like I'd been reading the last chapter of a book without any of the chapters that came before it. I typed back, "I'll meet you. Just tell me when and where." She suggested a coffee shop that Saturday, roughly halfway between our 2 apartments, public, neutral, low pressure. I agreed immediately. I told Jason where I'd be, mostly so someone knew. in case this turned out to be something stranger than it appeared. He offered to come with me, sit at a different table, keep an eye on things. I told him I appreciated it, but I needed to hear whatever this was on my own. That Friday night, I barely slept. I kept running through possibilities in my head. Was Emily going to tell me this was somehow my fault? Was she angry at me for some reason I couldn't understand? Emily was already sitting at a corner table when I walked in Saturday morning. Younger than I expected, maybe late 20s. She had both hands wrapped around a coffee cup she clearly wasn't drinking. Like she just needed something to hold on to. "Thank you for coming," she said when I sat down. "I've wanted to talk to you since June." I just didn't know how to start that conversation. I didn't say anything right away. I just waited. Something told me she needed to tell this at her own pace. She started at the beginning. She'd met Derek almost a year before my wedding, through a mutual friend from his gym. They started seeing each other quietly. Derek told her early on that he wasn't ready to make things public, said he'd had a bad breakup, and wanted to take things slow before introducing her to the people in his life. He asked her to be patient. She was 8 months. That's how long she believed that explanation. "I used to see photos on his phone sometimes," she told me. "You and a woman I didn't know. He said you were his best friend from college and she was your fiancée. He talked about your wedding a handful of times. He even complained once about how stressed he was writing his best man speech." I remember exactly where I was sitting when she said that. I remember the specific way my stomach dropped. Derek had complained to his secret girlfriend about the stress of writing a speech for my wedding. The same speech where he stood up in front of everyone I loved and said he knew, the second he met Sarah, that she was the one for me. Emily said that about 3 weeks before my wedding, she found something on a shared tablet Derek sometimes used at her apartment. Messages, photos, a video, plans to meet Sarah at a hotel. "I confronted him immediately," she said. "He didn't even really deny it. He tried to explain it away instead. Said it was complicated. Said it would be over after the wedding. Said Sarah was, quote, going through something. And he was just being there for her. Being there for her. In a hotel room. 3 weeks before she was supposed to marry someone else." I sat back in my chair and just breathed for a second. I asked her the question that had been sitting in my chest since her very first text. "Why did you send me the video?" Emily was quiet for a while before she answered. When she finally spoke, her voice was steadier than I expected. "Because I kept thinking about what would happen if nobody told you," she said. "You would have married her. Maybe you'd have found out years later, with kids involved, with an entire life built on a foundation that was never real. I didn't think you'd believe me just from a message. I needed you to see it for yourself." Derek had saved the file. He was careless enough, or arrogant enough, to think no one would ever find it. She told me she sat with that video file for 2 full days before she sent it. She said she kept thinking about her own parents, who divorced when she was 11, after she found out her father had hidden an affair from her mother for 6 years. She said growing up in the wreckage of that secret was the worst thing she'd ever experienced. Worse, even, than finding out about Sarah. "I couldn't be the reason someone else lived that," she said. "Even if it meant blowing up my own relationship in the process. Even if it meant you'd hate the messenger along with everyone else." I told her I didn't hate her. I meant it. Sitting across from her, I realized she'd made a choice that cost her something too. Her entire relationship, whatever future she thought she had with Derek. Just so a stranger she'd never met wouldn't walk into a marriage built on a lie. "I'm not asking you to thank me," she said quietly. "I know I probably just added another layer of pain onto the worst week of your life. I just needed you to know the whole truth was bigger than what you'd already found." I asked her what happened after she sent it. She said she blocked Derek everywhere that same day. His number, every social account, every way he could reach her. She said she hasn't spoken to him since, and she has no idea what his life looks like now, and she doesn't want to know. We sat in that coffee shop for almost 2 hours. At some point, the conversation stopped being about Derek entirely, and just became 2 people who'd been hurt by the same person, comparing notes, trying to make sense of how someone could build 2 Entire parallel lives out of lies and hold both of them together for the better part of a year, without either of us noticing. Before we left, Emily said one more thing that stayed with me. She said, "I used to think I was a pretty good judge of character. This whole thing kind of destroyed that confidence for a while." I told her I understood that better than almost anyone could. I think that's the moment I actually believed everything she told me. Not because of the details. Because of that specific kind of exhaustion in her voice, the exact same exhaustion I'd been carrying since April. I want to be honest about something. Part of me wanted to just sit on what I'd learned. Sarah and Derek were already out of my life completely. I'd already grieved the future I thought I was going to have. Some days, moving forward, quietly felt a lot easier than reopening a wound that had barely started to close. But I kept thinking about Sarah. Whatever she'd done to me, I didn't think she knew the full picture of who Derek actually was. I didn't owe her anything at that point, but I also didn't want to become someone who held onto the truth just because using it felt inconvenient. So I sent her exactly one message. I told her Derek had been in a relationship with someone else for 8 months before our wedding, the entire time he was supposedly helping plan it, and that the woman he'd been lying to was the same person who sent me the video. Sarah called me 11 times that night. I didn't answer a single one, but she did send a text I've thought about a lot since. She wrote, "I don't expect you to believe anything I say anymore, but I really thought what happened with Derek was a one-time mistake we both regretted immediately. I had no idea there was someone else involved this whole time. I feel like an idiot on top of everything." I don't know if that's completely true. I don't think I'll ever fully know. But for what it's worth, a mutual friend told me a few months later that Sarah and Derek weren't speaking anymore. Whatever bond had formed between them through betraying me apparently didn't survive. The two of them learning the full truth about each other. As for Derek, word travels fast in a small friend group, even when nobody's trying to spread it. Within a few weeks, people who'd known him for years started piecing the timeline together. I never posted his name anywhere online. Never gave the wider group more detail than what happened with Sarah. But small circles talk to each other. Eventually someone connected the dots that Derek had been juggling 2 separate relationships while serving as my best man. And after that, the invitations to things quietly stopped coming his way. He didn't just lose me. He lost almost every friend we'd grown up with together. I heard, secondhand, that he left the city about a year later. Similar to what I mentioned in part 1, just with a clearer picture of why. Wherever Derek is building a life now, he's building it somewhere far away from every single person who used to actually know him. Then there was the practical wreckage, the unglamorous part nobody really wants to talk about in these stories. A cancelled wedding doesn't just end in heartbreak. It ends in math. My parents and I spent weeks on the phone with vendors, trying to recover whatever deposits we could. The venue kept about half of ours. The caterer, to their credit, worked with us and refunded most of it once we explained the situation. My father quietly ate the cost of the band deposit entirely and never once brought it up to make me feel guilty about it, which, looking back, was its own kind of love I don't think I fully appreciated at the time. Sarah's mother, who I'd grown genuinely close to over 4 years, sent me a card about 2 months after everything happened. She didn't defend her daughter in it. She just wrote that she was sorry for encouraging me to trust so completely, as if any part of this had ever been her fault to carry. I wrote back and told her it wasn't. I meant every word of that. It's been a while since all of this happened. I'm not going to pretend I have some perfectly clean, movie-ending version of healing to hand you. That's not really how betrayal works. But I can tell you honestly where I actually am right now. I still live in the same city. I run into people from Sarah's old friend group occasionally, from a distance, and it doesn't wreck my entire day anymore the way it used to. That's new. That's real progress, even if it sounds small when I say it out loud. I started therapy about 4 months after the wedding was supposed to happen. It's probably the best decision I made in this entire mess. My therapist helped me understand something I couldn't see clearly on my own. I wasn't just grieving Sarah and Derek. I was grieving the version of myself who trusted people easily, who gave the benefit of the doubt without a second thought. That version of me didn't come back exactly the same, but a steadier, more self-aware version showed up in his place. Eventually, on his own timeline. I'm dating again, slowly. Nothing serious yet. But a few weeks ago, I went on a second date with someone and realized, somewhere around dessert, that I hadn't spent the whole night comparing her to Sarah in my head. That felt like something worth mentioning here. Jason and I are closer than we've ever been. It's strange how a crisis can do that. Some friendships fall apart under pressure. Others get forged by it. As for Emily, we don't talk often. But every couple of months, one of us checks in on the other. Nothing romantic. Just two people who were hurt by the same person, who understand something about each other that's genuinely hard to explain to anyone else who wasn't there. I still don't fully know why this happened to me. I don't think there's a clean, satisfying answer to that question, and I've stopped looking for one. Sometimes people you trust completely turn out to be capable of things you never would have predicted. That's not a reflection of you. It never was. It took me a long time to actually believe that sentence instead of just repeating it. So here's my question for you, now that you know the whole story. Would you have reached out to Emily the way I did? Would you have told Sarah the full truth about Derek, knowing it wouldn't change anything for you personally? Or would you have just walked away and never looked back, and let the mystery stay a mystery? Let me know below. And genuinely, thank you for sticking with this story through both parts. It's meant more than you probably realize.